Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donohue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donohue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. We are the podcast that talks about creeps from the past to the present. We've got an 80s style creep today.
Yep.
We got like Miami Vice music going to be playing in the background, getting us in the mood.
You are so funny. Throughout my script, I put a bunch of like 80s songs.
Nice.
You read my mind.
On TikTok, there was a 4K of Phil Collins singing Susudio, that video. They put the 4K on Susudio, y'all. If they do that to Easy Lover as well, I'm done.
I love Easy Lover.
With Philip Bailey, that's the best song ever.
So good.
Oh.
So good. She's an easy
So get a hold on you, believe it. We believe it. We're not a singing podcast. We're a podcast that talks about creeps from the past to the present. It's an 80s creep today. But here's the deal. We always end the show with somebody who is not a creep. And I really like our not creep this week. It's a nonprofit that I think is going to be a perfect accompaniment to all this. But we're always looking for ideas for creeps and also for the non-creeps. So here's some places where you could reach out to us. We have a basic Facebook page. Be sure to like it. The episodes are posted there. The only thing is that that's where people usually go to complain about our language. This is your warning. We use salty language in this program.
Fuck, shit, damn.
And then we're much more interactive in our private Facebook group. So go to Facebook, type in What a Creep Podcast Group and ask to join. Just promise not to be an asshole. There's a few questions there. Do your best. And we really created a nice, safe space on Facebook.
Best.
And it is the best people. And we talk about pop culture and we talk about stuff happening in the news and we come up with creeps and non-creeps and all kinds of fun stuff. So that's a good start. We're also on Threads, Instagram, and Blue Sky at What a Creep Podcast. And we have an old-timey email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. And if you would like some stickers, and I'm waiting for another batch of stickers, y'all, but when they come in, I'm going to send them out again. So wherever you are on the planet of Earth, if you'd like some stickers, give us your address and I will send them to you.
She will do it.
I will do it. Just double dog dare me. Sonia, tell them about the website.
Yeah, go to whatacreeppodcast.com and it's everything you want to know about the podcast, but we're afraid to ask. You should never be afraid to ask, but you could go there. We have information on us. We also have all of our past episodes are there. You can click into the blog posts and it like opens up, and you can see our show notes because we source everything we're doing. We're not making any of this stuff up. We want to give people credit for the work that they do. If you're looking for a deeper dive on any of our creeps, fabulous place to start. We also have a link to our merch shop where you can get t-shirts and tote bags and face masks. Get your face masks here.
Jesus, the flus that are going around alone here in where I live in New York, the hospital's around the corner from me. I'm hearing the word on the street is it's packed. There's some terrible flus going around. If you can avoid it, do so, but definitely try. I'm seeing masks again.
I had it last week.
She did.
If you're like, Sonia sounds a little congested, it's because I'm a little congested. It's a nasty one. And also, there's things like bird flu and measles. Anyway, get some masks. Get some. Whether you get them from us or not, please wear some masks. We also have a link to our Patreon. You want to tell them about that, Margot?
Yes, Patreon. We're on season 28 right now, which is
28.
Mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. But we have our first 9 seasons on the Patreon wall, and that's for those of you that sign up for that. And I want to say our friend Simone signed up for it, and we love Simone. She is the author of a fabulous book called Old Films, Young Eyes, a teenage take on Hollywood's golden age. Get that book, y'all. She's amazing.
It's a good one.
It's a really good one. But we also put out 2 bonus episodes a month on there. And the bonus episodes are fun because we do an audio version. And we also go on Zoom. So we do a video version so you can see our pusses. And it's just Sonia and I talking about, we're just shooting the shit, just talking about things that are happening in the news and little, bite-sized creepage that we go through there. So all those people that take care of us there. Thank you so much. You can also sign up for free, and occasionally we put stuff on there that's for free, clips and things like that. But thank you all that do that. And all of you that reach out to us, I should say, on Spotify and iTunes. We just had a bunch of people leave comments on Spotify, which thank you so much. They make it much easier now. So those of you that do that, thank you. Because what they do is if you get a lot of engagement, then they put you higher on the list and more people can find out about us. And Sonia and I can just retire and just do this for a living. We don't have to do anything else. That's the dream.
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. So thank you for doing that. Anything else? I think we're all good.
I think that's everything. Shall we do it?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Sources for
Easy
this
Lover.
Actually,
by Philip Bailey. Phil Collins. Here we go.
I'm like, actually, let's start with this. We're going to talk about the Billionaires Boys Club. Now, you might remember it from the 1987 miniseries of the same name. It starred Judd Nelson and Ron Silver. I totally watched this because I was like, Judd Nelson, like St. Elmo's Fire's Judd Nelson.
And the Breakfast Club's Judd Nelson. And
yeah, he was a movie star to me. Movie star. He's going to be on TV. Can't wait. So I totally watched it. You definitely don't remember it from the 2018 Billionaires Boys Club that starred Ansel Elgort.
Bless his heart. He died, right?
Karen? No. No, you're thinking of
the guy from Star Trek.
Star Trek. Oh my God. I can't remember his name, but not him. Also Taron Egerton and Kevin Spacey. This movie made $618.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh.
It played at 11 theaters its opening weekend. So y'all didn't see that one. But the Billionaires Boys Club is the other.
Yelkin.
Yes, that's who you're thinking.
Sorry about. Yeah, he was also in one of the Carrie movies, and I'll have some news about that in a couple of days.
Woo! So the real Billionaires Boys Club was an investment club started by Joe Hunt. Well, he called it an investment
club.
Not
Mike Hunt?
No.
Sorry. That's an old Porky's joke.
I wish.
Think of the 80s. Thinking of the 80s. They had sex comedies that were horribly sexist and terrible.
So sexist and terrible. So it wasn't an investment club. It was really a Ponzi scheme. And it led to the murder of 2 people. What a creep. So sources for this episode, Dominic Dunn's Power, Privilege, and Justice, E-Online, Investigation Discovery, Reuters, the San Francisco Examiner, y'all.
Sonia's
my former
own
stomping ground. It was after I'd left, but there you go. The San Mateo Daily Journal, and of course, Wikipedia. Trigger warning, murder. So we're going to start at the beginning. Joseph Henry Gamsky was born in Chicago, October 31st, 1959.
Boomer.
He's a Halloween baby.
A Halloween boomer.
Yeah. Eventually, the family moved to California. He grew up in Van Nuys, which is a neighborhood in Los Angeles, if you don't know. His family always struggled financially. His father worked for the American Institute of Hypnosis.
What?
I'm sure they raked in big bucks, I'm sure. He taught Joe self-hypnosis, which is maybe why he always walked around thinking he was such the fucking shit, right? Mm-hmm. But Joe was a very smart kid, clearly like high IQ, great debater, got a scholarship to go to Harvard School for Boys, not that Harvard, the Harvard School for Boys, which is now known as Harvard Westlake, and it's co-ed. So at the time, though, it was an all-boys, like, prep high school.
Girls smart? Come on, Sonia.
No.
They need to be in home ec.
That's right.
Making sandwiches for their male classmates.
They were going to the Betty Crocker School for Girls.
We should do Candace Owens next, because she's being super shitty and has a book out. I'm writing that down.
Let's do it.
I have to do that, yeah. Her new book is called Make 'em a Sandwich, because she's awesome.
Oh my God. This is fucking gross. Okay. Yeah. So he goes to the school for rich kids. He's not rich.
Been there.
Classmates, very wealthy. He didn't really fit in. He made some friends. but he didn't really fit in. But he really honed in on the idea that he needed money and power if he wanted to succeed in life. He wanted money.
True.
Lots and lots of money.
Let's
I
make
want the
lots
pie
of
in the
money.
sky.
Pet Shop Boys. They had that song on that TV movie, by the way. I remember that.
I'm sure they did, actually.
they
I
did.
don't remember, but
I saw it
I'm
a bunch
sure
of
they
times.
did.
It was on Lifetime
Yeah.
a bunch, yeah.
Of course it was. So after Harvard School for Boys, he went to USC to study accounting, and he
Exciting.
passed the I know. Whee! He passed the CPA exam. He was only 19.
Jesus,
Which
he's
is
smart.
He is smart.
He is.
And-
Accounting's a fine job, by the way. I have no
Yes.
brains for it.
Look, some people are numbers people.
Yes, and
And
Excel
some people are not.
spreadsheets, and they're
Yes.
really good at all that shit. I'm not. So it's
I am
envy
also.
that I am
Yeah.
speaking from.
Yeah. So he passes that exam, and then he drops out like sophomore year. He's like, nah, I'm super smart. I don't need this. So because he looks like a background actor from American Psycho, he managed to get a job at a very prestigious accounting firm, really relying on that CPA score.
Because
And,
men are
just-
judged by their potential.
Yes. And they just skipped over the part where he didn't have a college degree. Maybe he mentioned it. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he lied.
My dad didn't, and we didn't know that. He only did one semester at college, and then he already had a job at IBM. And good for him, but he never told me that when I was he gave me a very hard time.
Side note, how often do they actually check to
They
see?
don't, and I tell people.
Couldn't I just be walking around telling people I went to like whatever school? If you don't like exaggerate too far, like if I was like I went to Princeton
and
then
I graduated at the top of the class, yes, then they might
then
look that
people
shit up.
might be like, But if I was like, hey, I went to Pepperdine University, and people would be like, she probably did.
Or also for you youngsters, you can go to junior college for a couple of years and then go to college and you're fine.
Yeah.
Nobody has to know. Anybody who judges you for that's an asshole. I mean, it is totally fine to transfer your junior year, senior year even.
That's what I did.
Yes, I did too.
Yeah, I did community college.
Yeah, so did I. DVC. I mean, nobody cares. It's fine.
But, he doesn't get his degree, but whether he mentioned that to them or not, I don't know. He probably didn't, would be my guess. So he gets this job. Now, he knows nothing about it, but he moves to Chicago and decides to do commodities trading. And guess what? He wasn't very good at it. He lost every bit of money he tried to invest. He was a smooth talker. He got lots of people to give him money, and then he would invest their money, even though he didn't have a license to do that.
Oh, great.
And, eventually, like, the commodities exchange in Chicago was like, you can't go here anymore. So they kick him out. And he's like, they just don't see my potential, right? It's not his fault. It's their fault.
Yes.
So now he's going back to LA. He's going back to Cali. And because he's a genius and everyone else is a sucker, he changes his name. He changes it from Joseph Henry Gamsky to Joe Hunt. He is now Joe Hunt, not Mike Hunt, Joe Hunt. And he returns to Beverly Hills with a new scheme. And he had the Eye of the Tiger. So he decides to form this investment club, of which he's the leader, of course. And he gets his like rich high school friends to put in their money. And it was called the BBC. BBC, BBD.
Del Viv DeVoe, y'all.
So it was named after the Bombay Bicycle Club, which is a restaurant in Chicago, but they would refer to it as the Billionaires Boys Club. And all the investors were rich, spoiled, and very insecure. So they believed. It's so fun at parties.
God, the bragging and the lying.
Oh
and
my
the
God.
shoving around and calling people the F slur and
Exactly. Yes. They really believed that Joe knew what he was doing. Like he could talk a really good game, and they believed it. And Joe was a big believer in the old saying, like you have to spend money. Yep. And you have to spend money to make money. You know? So in the beginning, they were able to like raise a lot of money off the members who were in the group, and then those members got other people out that they knew to invest their money. And Joe started buying and selling these like high risk commodities. And he really wanted everyone to look the part. That was part of the club too. So he leased like really expensive office space. Everyone got expensive sports cars. Like they ate at fancy restaurants. Like Spago was the thing in
all
the 80s.
The hallmarks of a fraud, by the way.
Yes.
They all will tell you, like, they could tell like an online business. They always look at their marketing and their offices. And if it looks like it's crap, they're actually saving their money. Right. But if it's like super fancy with the highest, the office furniture and everything, they could tell like, oh, these people are spending in the wrong way.
Yep. So they ate at the fancy restaurants. They wore really expensive suits and Rolex watches. And it was real like money for nothing and the chicks for free situation. But the times didn't last for long because abracadabra, Joe lost all their money in the markets.
He wanted to reach out and grab you.
That's right. He started using like one investor's money to pay off others, and that's a Ponzi scheme. So, ta-da! Ponzi scheme. So now we're in the spring of 83, peak 80s. And he meets someone named Ron Levin. Now, Ron Levin is like, he's a really shady businessman with a long history of fraud, and he gives off like a really creepy vibe. And he had been arrested for fraud several times. And it's never clear to me if Joe knew that or if he didn't know, or maybe he knew and he didn't care, or he didn't know. But Joe really believed that Levin had a lot of money and he wanted him to invest in BBC.
He's the shark they wanted to get.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So Joe convinces Levin to invest $5 million in BBC.
Which is a lot of money 40 years ago.
Which is a lot of money. But Levin convinces him that he wants to hold that money in his own brokerage account, like not the BBC brokerage account. And when I say BBC, I mean the Billionaires Boys Club, by the way, not the British Broadcasting Network or whatever.
Or Sky News.
So he's like, so you give me money and we're going to put it in my brokerage account and then we're going to split the profits. So in other words, Levin actually tricked Joe into investing in his Ponzi scheme.
Wow.
So Joe is now thinking like a new influx of money is coming in. So he's like, rolling into the office and like telling his partners, like, you're going to get money and you're going to get money. And, hey, I just got paid. It's Friday night. Yeah. He's like, we're all going to be rolling in it. And then Joe goes to Levin and is like, give me my money, please. And it turns out that like Levin never invested that money. And it was like a part of a whole other scheme. And it's like, we had a scam party and Joe wasn't invited. So like he doesn't get his money. Wah, wah. And Joe no likey. And he no likey when now the investors in BBC are like, we want our money back.
Yeah. And he has no money to give back because he lost it all.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Now Joe goes to Levin and is like, you need to give me my money. And he gets a check for $1.5 million from him. And guess what happened to that check?
Boink.
Boing. It bounced, everybody. Ta-da. So check bounces. And then 2 days later, Levin's mother reports him as missing. Isn't that suspicious?
Mm-hmm.
What weird timing.
He lived with his mother?
What?
Did he live with his mother? Or?
No, I think she had been trying to contact him and couldn't get in touch. Now, so the mother reports him missing. When he is reported missing, the police are like, fuck that guy. Like, they don't care. Like, he's known to be a fraudster. They're like, he probably ripped someone off.
And he's in Mexico.
And hiding.
And hiding it out. Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't buying it. They really didn't think he was missing. and they certainly didn't think he was dead. Now, so that case just sits there. Then, a few months later, the father of one of BBC's members, so that would be Reza, I'm going to make sure I pronounce it right, Islami is one of their members.
Did you ever watch The Shahs of Sunset?
No.
There's a very famous character named Reza. He's a real person.
Oh,
but he's like
okay.
very popular. Reza's like a, yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Well, his father is Hidayat. And Hidayat, they believe that he was very wealthy, that he had fled from Iran. He had some sort of, falling out with the Ayatollah, or where he criticized the Ayatollah. And that's why he fled Iran. And
which would be a good reason to flee, by the way.
True dat. So, a few months after 11, Hidayat goes missing.
Oh.
And it's like, well, that's suspicious. And there is all this speculation. It's like, it's the Ayatollah, like he sent people over here to like get him or whatever.
And there was a lot of anti-Iran sentiment in the mid-'80s. And yes, so left over from the kidnapping of the
those hostages.
Thank you. Sorry.
In the late 70s, and they
Argo
were released,
had a whole story about it. Yeah.
Yes,
Argo's
exactly.
a really good movie about it.
Every movie you watch in the 80s, the bad guys are like
Middle Eastern.
Yes, exactly.
Or Russia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's there. Now we're going to go back to Levin. So in August, now it's like 1984. A couple members of BBC have like had enough of their bullshit. They've been swindled out of their money and they're sick of Joe. And they're like, you know what? He can fucking suck it. So they go to the police and they're like, hey, we've been swindled. And we have a reason to believe that Joe and his bodyguard, this man named Jim Pittman, who was actually a doorman for Joe's condo, and then Joe hired him to be security. Why does Joe need security is a good question. So he hired him as a bodyguard, supposedly. And these two snitches are like, also, we think he has something to do with Levin's disappearance. And the cops are like, why do you think that? And they're like, because he told us that in a meeting. And this is before Zoom and their creepy AI companion that records and summarizes everything. So the cops really had to take their word for it. And so they go and they get a search warrant for Levin's a condo, which you think they would have already done, considering that he's been reported missing.
Right. And they hadn't?
No.
Oh, Jesus.
So they go into the apartment or the condo and they're searching, and they find a to-do list in the trash. And in the to-do list, it says, close blinds, kill dog, tape mouth.
That's right.
Seriously. And the cops were like, that's suspicious.
He didn't burn the note. He didn't flush it down the toilet.
No.
He just threw it in the trash.
Dude,
like a dumb fuck.
Literally made a fucking to-do list to murder someone and then was just like, I'll just put it in the trash. It's fine. It's in the trash. It's away. Goodbye, trash. And then no one ever saw it again. So then they arrest Joe and his bodyguard. And the cops show Joe the to-do list, and he's like, don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. And he's like, I need an attorney. So he gets an attorney. That attorney is Art Behrens. I looked him up. Apparently, he's still a working attorney, and he has, that's right, 4 reviews on Yelp, y'all. 4. Good. None of them from Joe Hunt.
I was just going to say.
None. He did have 4 reviews, and most of them, 3 were good, and there was a 1-star, and I was like, for sure, Joe Hunt. But it could be an alias. I don't know. So then the police talked to Dean Carney, and that's like Joe's BFF and like the primary partner, BBC. And they offer him immunity if he testifies. And he's like, yeah, I like that. Let's do that. Thanks for the immunity, suckers. And he's like, hey, and since we're all here investigating murders, Joe and some other members totally murdered someone else. And the cops are like, cool, thanks for the tip. So he told them Joe, his bodyguard, and 2 other BBC members, Ben Dostey and Reza himself.
Reza!
murdered Hidayat. They murdered him as well. So apparently their plan was Hidayat lived in Northern California, so they went up to Northern California, and they were going to bring him back to Los Angeles, and they were going to torture him, and they're going to get all of his money. Super cool, normal thing to do to make a little bit of money, right? Yeah. So they go up there. They lock him in a steamer trunk, like they're going to load him up on a boat or something, No fucking air holes.
Oh, my God.
Dude dies.
Oh, Jesus. What a horrible way to go. Was
horrible.
he in the car? Did they drive?
They drove a fucking U-Haul.
From San Francisco to LA. Oh, Jesus. Yes. And so he's in a trunk in a U-Haul?
Yes.
Ugh.
And they didn't put any fucking air. You never seen a cartoon? You dickheads, you don't. Oh, they're so. You think they're
would
so
I do
smart,
this to the suitcase if he was in there?
Here, like they're
my favorite Bugs Buddies.
So dumb. Supposedly so smart, but actually so dumb. So he dies, and they dump his body in Soledad Canyon. It's a really remote area in LA County. Carney led the police right to the body. And they had to identify the body with dental records.
Oh.
It's really awful. They wanted all of his money. They believed he had like $35 million, and he had no money at all.
Wow, Jesus Christ.
And I'm like, well, that would be hilarious if they didn't fucking murder someone.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? So, needless to say, there was a lot of hype in the media about this trial.
Yeah.
Hence the TV movie. And there were the two murder cases. So there was Levin and there was Islamia. And first Levin, they never did find his body.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, so the defense argued, well, he's not dead.
He's in Mexico. He's hanging out. He's hiding.
Yeah, he's not dead. He faked his death or something. This is like another con job. They brought on witnesses who were like, I totally saw him after he was supposedly murdered. And this is like, there are true believers out there who are like, no, Levin's just walking around and Johan is totally innocent.
Who believes that?
I know some people. The defense also argued that kill Levin wasn't on the to-do list. Therefore, he probably didn't do it.
They put the dog, but not the Levin.
Yeah, so that's right. I wrote here in my notes, everyone, if it's not on the list, you must acquit. And the jury was like, I'm not buying it. No. So he's found guilty of this murder. This is 3 years now after the murder. And they sentence him to life in prison without parole.
Fair.
And now there's a second trial. Yeah, and this one's for Hidayat. And Joe decides to represent himself, which makes me laugh because we've talked about this sort of thing in other creep episodes. It always goes horribly. But surprise, surprise, he actually did a really good job because he is smart.
Right.
Not smart enough to say burn his fucking to-do list and put air holes in a trunk, but he's a good talker. So he didn't deny participating in the kidnapping, but he argued that Carney's the one who did the killing, which is smart because Carney has immunity.
Mm-hmm.
And the jury was like, yeah, maybe he didn't do it. So they actually couldn't reach a verdict. They had a hung jury and it was split in his favor.
Wow.
So he almost
got away with
it.
It weren't these meddling kids.
Yes, that's right. So then a mistrial is declared and the prosecutors are like, we're not going to prosecute again. So Joe is the only person in California legal history to represent himself in a capital case and not receive the death penalty.
Wow.
So,
okay, you got to give him that.
Yeah, again, would be pretty cool if it wasn't for all the murder.
Right. And ripping people off.
Yeah, that.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets off for this one, but he does have a life sentence in California for Levin's murder. And the rest of the BBC didn't spend much time behind bars either. So the bodyguard Pittman, he actually couldn't make bail, and he ended up staying in jail for like 3.5 years during these trials. Yeah. And both of his trials also ended in hung juries because not having a body makes it really hard.
And there's always going to be one person on that jury pool that's going to be contrary and just be annoying.
Yes. So they were getting ready to start a third trial, and the prosecutors offered him a deal where it's like, hey, you plead guilty to accessory to murder after the fact and possession of a weapon, and we'll give you time served. And
that's not a bad deal.
And he was like, I'll take it. So he takes it. When the prosecutors were unable to convict Joe on Hedayat's murder, they didn't even bother with Pittman. And then, so now we're talking May 1993. Pittman goes on A Current Affair. Yeah, I used to love these shows.
Loved that show. It was trash, but I loved it.
Yeah. So our boy went on A Current Affair and was like, I totally murdered that guy. And he's like,
The Bodyguard did this?
Yes. And he's all untouchable, double jeopardy, which we just talked about.
Like Ashley Judd in that movie.
We just talked about on Dorking Out. And that's real double jeopardy because he's not, they really can't try him again.
Right.
I mean, somebody could maybe file a civil suit, but nobody did.
Right.
So he told this whole story. He's like, look, Joe was super pissed. We went to his house. We beat his ass. We made him write a check. We shot him. We wrapped him in a comforter. We dumped him in a canyon. And then we shot a bunch of shotguns into his body. And then we buried it. Like he told Current Affair everything. And I forget who the host was of A Current Affair. I want to say it was Maury Povich.
Maury Povich was definitely A Current
Maury
Affair.
He got the scoop then. Joe Pittman died in 97 at age 44. So,
oh God,
yeah, he didn't live much longer anyway. And also,
he was the bodyguard.
So, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I keep thinking of Stan Shaw plays him in there because we talked about Stan Shaw because he was in that movie we saw over the weekend, Snake Eyes.
Oh yes, that was a fun one, wasn't it?
That was such a fun one.
Such a fun one. So, some people did serve time for Hedayat's murder. Ben Dostey, one of the BBC members, did, and then Riza also did. But they were convicted, and they were sentenced to life in prison without parole. But after Joe's trial, theirs went up for appeal, and they were released.
Oh my goodness!
So they were like out. Like Joe's the only one that's like
who's still in jail.
Yes, still in jail.
Prison.
So our boy Riza, though, has had many, many run-ins with the law since then. I guess killing your dad will do that to you. It'll really fuck with your head. So he moved to San Francisco after he got released, and he started driving a cab. And then he was arrested before BBC, he was arrested for driving with a suspended license, and he was convicted of burglary twice. So that's even before he joined BBC. Then this murder happens, gets released, starts driving a cab. In 2004, he's busted for drugs and stolen property, and he gets a little bit of prison time because he's violated his probation. Then in August 2013, he's accused of a hit and run and killing a pedestrian in San Francisco while in his cab. The police apparently did not do a good job in this investigation. Like, they talked to him. They talked to the woman who was in his cab. They let him leave with the car after, and guess what he did? He fled town. He left. He's like, goodbye, yoink. He split. And the San Francisco Examiner article I linked to, the DA's the police didn't gather enough evidence. They didn't interview all the witnesses. They didn't give him a blood test.
Oh, for God's sake.
They didn't do anything. So any of that stuff. And then he split town and they couldn't even find him. So at a certain point, like I did a ton of poking around to see if they ever found him or charged him. I found nothing.
Oh,
So
wow.
it
He
sounds
got away
like
with it? Holy
that's what it
shit.
sounds like. So the only BBC member who did serious time and is still behind bars is Joe Hunt. He lost his final appeal in 2016. There is a very active, like, Free Joe Hunt campaign started by friends and family. He has a website. You know, he wants he wants the option to go before a parole board. That's because right now he's got life, no parole.
Right.
And, you know, he's given interviews and he's like, I see other men in similar situations and they get their sentences commuted. And I figure, why not me too? And he
He's
has
got nothing
started
else
this
to
whole
do.
right?
Yeah.
So he, you know, they have the website. I went to the website. It's really all like, and here's all the awesome shit he's done since becoming a prisoner. And it's like, that great, whatever, man. Like, you know, he's found God. He's Mr. God now. He's Mr. Religious. He's helped fellow inmates like get legal help, you know, stuff like that. You
Which
know,
is
it sounds
good.
like, hey, he sounds like a great prisoner.
Yeah. He's good at being a prisoner. Okay.
Yeah.
He's
Good
probably where
job.
he should be.
You know, he wants a chance to go before the parole board. And I have to say, considering how well he did with a jury, he might be successful.
He might be able to woo. He's a good talker.
He's a good talker. So
Mhm.
y'all prepare yourself for that. There could be a time when this shit's going to work and the dude's going to be out in the wild.
He looks up Judd Nelson. I got a great idea for a sequel.
Maybe. I mean, it could happen. He did sue NBC and tried to block the miniseries from happening. And the miniseries came out in 87. So, like, it's not terribly accurate and it doesn't have the conclusions to the stories because it was pushed out before.
Right.
You know, so take it with a grain of salt, y'all. But it is an entertaining 80s.
It has a lot of cute boys in it. That's why I've watched it. There's a lot of cute young actors in there. So
True dat.
Mhm.
So Judd Nelson and Brian McNamara, who play Judd Nelson plays Joe Hunt and Brian McNamara plays Carney. Like, they were both nominated for Golden Globes, y'all. And I looked it up. The Billionaire Boys Club was nominated for 4 Emmys.
Ooh.
This is like we're getting into dorking out territory. So it was nominated for Outstanding Miniseries, Directing, Writing, and Outstanding Supporting Actor for Ron Silver.
He's really good in there. R.I.P.
Yeah.
He was a great actor.
Yeah, and I looked up to see like what they lost to, and the big TV movies at the time were or miniseries, I should say. I think this stuff is super interesting.
I'm listening.
Is Baby M, which was the one about surrogacy.
Oh, Sarah. The girl's name was Sarah.
I think that's right, but it's called Baby M. And then the other ones
They were going
like
to get rid of surrogacy because of it. That was the whole thing. It was like a huge controversy.
Yes.
And I remember my mom being like, no, once they figured out surrogates, like it's not good. That's going to be the way. And she was right.
Yep.
Because she says, who wants to go through that shit? Because she had 4 kids. And she was like, if I could get somebody else to do it, if I could have outsourced this.
So
she had a tiny waist. She used to tell me, Sonia, 24-inch waist, gone.
Oh my God. I had a size 2 body before I had a baby. Back in the day, y'all, TV movies and miniseries were big fucking deals because we had like 3 networks, maybe 4, like late 80s, we had Fox, and they loved to do these like issues of the week or like
true crime,
controversial true crime, things like your Fatal Visions,
they were really well done. And they were, I defend
super well done.
I'm always looking at old TV movies from the 70s and 80s, and some of them are really, really good.
Salem's Lot. We talked about
Salem's Lot is great, but
it's good shit.
Yeah.
It's good shit. So yeah, Baby M was the big one. Another one was
JoBeth
The
Williams.
Attic. Yes.
I knew it.
The Attic, The Hiding of Anne Frank.
Who?
Probably very
just kidding.
Who's that? Probably really upsetting. Excuse me. There's another one called The Murder of Mary Fagan.
Yes, and that one is actually coming back, Sonia, because Leo, there's a girl that was killed, and it was in Atlanta. It was in Georgia, And it was in the early 20th century. And the man that ran the sweatshop, I guess it was, or the whatever, Leo something or other, he was Jewish. And there was a lot of anti-Semitism, and he was basically railroaded. And it started to, I'm only mentioning this, Sonia, because it's starting to come back. Because there's somebody that was talking about Leo Frank or whatever his name was, but that he was this martyr of justice because of his religion. And then people like, no, he really did kill Mary Fagin, blah, blah, blah. And he didn't really kill Mary Fagin. But anyway.
Yeah.
These TV movies, man, they taught me a lot of shit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. They
really did.
They were really well done. And that one was like a big deal. It had like Jack Lemmon in it.
Yeah.
Like, everyone loves Jack Lemmon.
Peter, what's his face with the eyebrows? Peter Gallagher played the lead. Yep. Yeah, I remember this stuff. Yep. They were really, like I said, really well done, interesting. It's got history. This has everything.
It has everything.
TV movies are great, y'all.
They are great. So that is our creep, the Billionaires Boys Club, and Joe Hunt.
Good job, Sonia.
Thank you.
So do you want to hear about our not creep this week? I bring up the right thing. So I want to thank Meg, who sent a note to us, on Instagram, and mentioned that Steve Carell, who we know, Steve Carell from The Office, he announced recently that he's telling, LA had the wildfires in LA. I think you've all heard about it. And there's a charity that I'm going to talk about today, Alice's Kids. And he announced that Alice's Kids are going to buy prom tickets for all these kids, like 700 kids. So they can just go and enjoy their prom and like if they want to spend the extra money on something else, but like for the prom tickets, because they can be really expensive. So they're offering it to all these kids for free. And so somebody's like,
That's awesome.
Isn't that? And so I'm like, I'm going to look up. So it's called Alice's Kids. And I want you to hear about it. I'm going to read it to you. We know from personal experience that when you grow up in poverty, you face different kinds of hardships. When your house has no heat, or there is little food in the refrigerator, you suffer physically. But when you venture into the public, there can be emotional hardships that are just as painful. You might feel shame when you go to school wearing the same tattered sweater 5 days in a row. You want to hide as you watch your classmates sign a yearbook you cannot afford. Or you might skip school altogether to avoid being bullied. And it's Alice Fitzsimmons, and Ron Fitzsimmons is her brother. And they talk about their mother. Laura and her brother. Alice Fitzsimmons was the mother. And Laura and Ron write, we lived in pain because in the early 60s, our family received monthly welfare payments that barely cover the cost of rent and food. We became known as the welfare kids. Our mother, Alice, did whatever she could to pick up extra cash. And when she was paid, she proudly ran home to announce to us that we were going shopping. To this day, we can recall the exhilarating feeling of going onto the school bus wearing new sneakers or sporting a new haircut. In the grand scheme of things, these things were not as important as food and shelter, but they lifted our spirits and made us feel normal among our classmates. In 2001, as we were reminiscing about how our mother tried hard to make us feel good about ourselves, we began to wonder whether we could help lift kids in similar situations, and the rest is history. After consulting numerous charities to see if they offered targeted financial assistance to children, the unanimous answer was no. So with that assurance, they started The Great Need was formed for Alice's Kids. And so what people do, and they're based in Virginia, and they have lots of like celebrity supporters, including Steve Carell and his spouse. She's the one that taught Nancy Carell, taught him about that. Yeah. Kevin Bacon, Alan Tudyk, Eric Roberts, Patton Oswalt, all these people, James Cromwell, Carrie Elwes, Meredith Salinger. There's all these celebrities that they wear these T-shirts for Alice's Kids. And basically, you apply for a specific kid for a specific thing they may need. Maybe it could be a wardrobe. It could be just a backpack. It could be a tutor that somebody needs and their family can't afford it. But it's very super targeted for that kid. And the way they do it is they give the kid a cash card to pay for it, or some way to do it to preserve their dignity. But you can just find someone and they have this specific need, and you can just help fill it. Get them a yearbook if they can't afford one, and they want to, they want to have a yearbook. They want a keepsake with their friends for years to come.
Right.
So Steve Carell announced this, and it was picked up everywhere. And I'll put the link in the show notes. It's a good thing, man. I mean, it's just, we all know how hard school is. And fitting in, and when you don't feel like you fit in, it's just the worst feeling ever, especially when school is your life and you don't have anything else to like
it
hang your
feels
hat
like
on.
the whole world.
Yeah.
It feels like the whole world.
It does. It really does. And if you can't afford something, like you feel left out, it's a very painful feeling. And so I know how that feels because I was always a new kid, and I know, that whole dance you have to do to make friends and fit in and stuff like that. It's just really hard. And so so they found out like all these kids in Southern California, like they've been through the hardest thing. Their parents probably lost their job. I mean, there's all this loss. They have this party they could go to with their friends. Let's just buy their tickets for it so they can do whatever they want. They can have a great time and not have to worry about that.
That's awesome.
Which I think is just totally awesome. And that's just like something we want to give a shout out to on our show. And so
I love that.
I love that. We're going to go the distance, Lisa Barlow. So thank you. That's that's a case of one of our listeners giving us an idea for a non-creep.
We love suggestions.
We do love those suggestions. So thank you, Meg, for reaching out and doing that. And if you like the sound of our voices, and by golly, why wouldn't you? We're a goddamn delight. Sonia and I co-host a show called Dorking Out, where we dork out about movies. What did we talk about last time? We took a week off because Sonia was sick.
Yes. I think before that was Double Jeopardy.
Double Jeopardy, which is really great. Super fun.
So fun. We love a 90s thriller. So
we're going to go very 80s still with this. I think this is 87 or 88, this movie.
Yeah, you are correct.
So Gene Hackman, sad to say, passed away. And it tells you what a career this man had, that when people talk about not Gene Hackman and they put a clip or a still from a movie, and it's like a dozen different movies that people are referring to because he had such an amazing career and he was so fucking good. And everyone loved working with him.
So good.
He was so freaking good. When he was in there, he classed up the joint. Get Shorty. I forgot all about Get Shorty. He's hilarious in that.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a really good one, too. But we're going to cover
Heartbreakers. He was so funny in Heartbreakers.
And what's the one I'm thinking of? We Are Family.
Birdcage.
He's hilarious in Bird. I mean, he's just always really, really good. And we were going to replay one of his movies, but then we decided I wanted to talk about Hoosiers because I think that's my favorite Gene Hackman movie. And I'll talk about this when we do that show. But we're going to cover Hoosiers, and if you don't know what that is, God damn it, you got to learn.
You're in for a treat.
You're in for such a treat. It's a very sweet, simple story. It takes place, I believe, in Indiana. It's the Midwest, and it's a basketball team, and it's a white basketball team. I mean, it's very okay, but it's about this one team that like goes to the playoffs, and he's this coach, and he's older, and he's a little crotchety, and he's got to kind of find his way. Barbara Hershey's in this movie. It's wonderful, and it's
Dennis Hopper.
I forgot about. Hopper is so good in this movie. It's like
he's so good. It's the same year that Blue Velvet came out. And so there was a big thing about Dennis Hopper is going to get nominated for an Oscar. What's it going to be? And it was Hoosiers.
And he was so good in it, y'all. It's
so good.
It's so good. So that's what we're going to be covering next. But please, all those places I mentioned at the top of the show, you want to give us your suggestions for creeps and non-creeps or even for dorking out. Do that. We love it when you use the Annie Potts gift. We got one from Ghostbusters, or just do something else.
Whatever works for you.
Our email, once again, is whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like some stickers, please send the address that way, and I will drop the mail for you. Waiting for them. They're supposed to show up. Sonia.
Yeah.
Where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Blue Sky and Threads and Instagram and the TikTok. How about you, my friend?
You can find me at brooklynfitchick.com. I'm at brooklynfitchick for Threads and Instagram, and I'm at Brooklyn Margot for TikTok and Blue Sky. And then on YouTube, I'm at my name, Margot Donahue. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back soon with a new episode. In the meantime, everybody, listen to Easy Lover by Philip Bailey and Phil Collins. That's your assignment.
That's right.
Be kind, be gracious. Just don't be a creep.
Don't be a creep.
Oops, my cat's blocking my way.
Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.